Good morning. Good morning. Hello there from the regional office in Cleveland, Ohio. This is Jameson Rowe, and we're going over the cash flow quadrant, Rich Dad's Guide to Financial Freedom. Again, this is our wonderful book reading club that we do every Saturday morning to help expand our mind and to create our financial intelligence and our emotional intelligence with money because both are tied. And later on, you'll hear why it's like a 24-to-1 ratio, something like that with our mind. Anyway, we're continuing on with page number 48, excuse me, in chapter 6 is where I'm trying to go with this thing. And where are we at? There we go. Chapter 6 is too far. Is where we're headed. And we're going to page number 134 in the book. But we're going to start off a little bit back. Now we're on page 129 and chapter 6. So we have it up on the screen for everyone if they don't have the book. And we're starting off with the definition of real estate. Again, to be able to see money, you must see it with your mind, not your eyes. In order to train your mind, you must know the real definitions of the words and the systems of numbers. By now, you should know the difference between an asset and a liability, and you should know the definition of the word mortgage, which is an agreement until death, and the word finance, which means penalty. You will now learn the original origin of the words real estate and the popular financial vehicle called derivatives. Many people think derivatives are new, but in reality, they're ages old. A simple definition of a derivative is something that comes from something else. An example is a derivative is an orange juice. Orange juice is a derivative of an orange. I used to think that real estate meant real or something that was tangible. My rich dad explained to me that it really comes from the Spanish word real, which means royal. El Camino Real means the royal road. Real estate means the royal estate. Once the agrarian age came to an end and the industrial age began around 1500, power was no longer based on the land and agriculture. The monarchs realized they had to change in response to the land reform acts that allowed peasants to own the land. So royalty created derivatives such as taxes on the land ownership and mortgages as a way of allowing commoners to finance their land. Taxes and mortgages are derivatives because they are derived from the land. Your banker would not call the mortgage a derivative. They would say it is secured by the land. Different words, similar meanings. So once royalty recognized that money, excuse me, realized that money was no longer in the land, but in derivatives that came from the land, the monarchs set up banks to handle the increased business. Today, land is still called real estate because no matter how much you pay for it, it never really belongs to you. It still belongs to the royals. Technically, you can never own it. You can own the rights to real estate. You can own the color of the paint you use, the style, but you still have HOAs, you still have taxes, you still have federal taxes, and the rights are ultimately you buy the rights to the real estate, but ultimately you don't own the ground. You can actually move the house, but the land, the actual dirt, is actually still owned by US of A. What is your interest rate, really? Rich Dad fought and negotiated tough for every single point of interest he paid. He asked me this question. When a banker tells you your interest rate is 8% per annum, is it really? I found out it's not if you learn to read numbers. Let's say you buy a $100,000 home, make a down payment of $20,000, and borrow the remaining $80,000 at 8% interest rate with a 30-year term from your bank. In 5 years, you will pay a total of $35,220 to the bank, $31,276 for interest, and only $3,944 for debt reduction. That's like 60, 70, almost $80,000. If you take the loan to term for 30 years, you'll have paid $211,323 in total principal and interest, less what you originally borrowed, $80,000. The total interest you will have paid $131,323. By the way, that $211,323 doesn't include property taxes and insurance on the loan. Funny, $131,323 seems to be a little bit more than 8% of $80,000. It's more like 160% in interest over 30 years. As I said, they're not lying. They're just not telling you the whole truth. And if you can't read numbers, you really never know. And if you're happy with the house you'll never really care. But of course, the industry knows that in a few years, you're going to want a new house, a bigger house, a smaller house, a vacation house, or a refinance on your mortgage, which is the let's do it again. Refinance your mortgage, pay all the points, pay all the additional costs, and just restart that one more time, and that just starts the pain one more time too. Although they make it seem like it's going to be a great thing. They know it, and in fact, they count on it. Industry average. In the banking industry, a 7-year average is used as the life of expectancy of a mortgage. That means banks expect an average person to buy a new house or refinance every 7 years. And that means that in this example, they expect to get their original $80,000 back every 7 years, plus $43,291 in interest. And that's why it's called a mortgage, which comes from the French word mortier, or agreement until death. In reality, the reality is that most people will continue to work hard, get paid raises, and buy new houses with new mortgages. On top of that, the government gives a tax break to encourage taxpayers to buy more expensive houses, which means higher property taxes for the government. They encourage tax breaks so that they get more taxes. Not a bad idea. Every time I watch television, I see commercials where handsome athletes smile and tell you to take all of your credit card debt and roll it into a bill consolidation loan. That way, you can pay off those pesky credit cards and carry a new loan at a lower interest rate. They'll tell you why it's financially intelligent to do this. A bill consolidation loan is a smart move, and on your part, because the government gives you a tax deduction for the interest payments you make on your mortgage. The only tax advantage that an E has. Viewers thinking they might see the light run down to the finance company, refinance their home, pay off their credit card debts, and feel intelligent. Wow, we are free. A few weeks later, they're shopping and see a new dress, a new lawnmower, or realize their kid needs a new bicycle, or they need to take a vacation because they're exhausted. And by the way, they deserve it. They have excellent credit. They pay their bills. Their little heart goes pitter patter, and they say to themselves, "Oh, go on. You deserve it. You can pay it off a little every month." Emotions overpower logic, and the credit card comes out of hiding. As I said, when the bankers say your house is an asset, they're not lying. When the government gives you a tax break for being in debt, it's not because they're concerned about your financial future. The government is concerned about its financial future. So when your banker, your accountant, your attorney, and your teachers tell you that your house is an asset, they just fail to say whose asset it is anyway. What about savings? Are they assets? My savings in the bank, this should be an asset. Yeah. Now, your savings really are assets. That's the good news. But again, if you read financial statements, you'll understand the total picture. Robert Kiyosaki says this in one of his interviews. As if you see only one side of the story, like what the bank's showing you, that's one side of the story, and that's a sales pitch. If you see both sides of the story, that's an education because you see the pros and the cons. You see both sides. You're not blinded by what they're telling you, but you see everything. While it's true that your savings are an asset, when you look across town at the bank's balance sheet, your savings show up as a liability. This is what your savings and checkbook balance look like in the asset column. Your assets, your balance sheet is assets, your savings, your checkbook balance. So it's in the asset column, liabilities. So this is the in the balance sheet. And this is how your savings and your checkbook balance are carried on your bank's balance sheet. Well, this is the bank's balance sheet. So they're liabilities to the bank, your savings and your checkbook. Why are your savings and checkbook balances a liability to banks? Because they have to pay you interest for your money, and it costs them money to safeguard it. So they have costs associated with maintaining your money, keeping it safe, and keeping it protected and managing it. If you can grasp the significance of these few drawings and words, you might begin to better understand why the eyes cannot see about what the eyes cannot see about the game of money. Money is a game. Why don't tax when why you don't get a tax break for saving money? If you notice, you get a tax break for buying a house and going into debt, but you don't get a tax break for saving money. Have you ever wondered why? I'm not sure either, but I imagine that one big reason is because your savings are a liability to banks. Why would they ask the government to pass a law that would encourage you to put even more money into their bank, money that is a liability to them? They don't need your savings. Besides, banks really don't need your savings. They don't need much in deposits because they can magnify money at least 10 times. If I put $1 into the bank, by law, the banks can lend out $10 and depending upon the reserve limits imposed by the central bank, possibly much more. That means that your single $1 suddenly becomes $10 or more. It's magic. They just make money out of thin air. When my rich dad showed me that, I fell in love with the idea. At that point, I knew that I wanted to own a bank and not go to school to become the banker. By the way, I know of a place that we can actually become the bank and become your own banker. And it's not as hard as you think. And later on in the day, we'll be talking about that. On top of that, the bank may pay less than 1% interest on that $1 from the central bank. In better economic times, it could be 5%, and you as a consumer would feel secure because the bank is paying you something on your money. Banks see this as good customer relations because if you have savings with them, you may come in and borrow money too. They want you to do this because they can then charge 9% or more on what you borrow. While you may make less than 1% on your $1, the bank can make 9% or more on the $10 of debt your single dollar has generated. Recently, I received a new credit card offer that advertised 8.9% interest. But since I understood the legal jargon in the fine print, I saw it was really 23%. Needless to say, I took a pass. Oh, and by the way, they can take in and loan that money multiple times. And I think I saw one illustration where the bank can make anywhere from 500 to over 1,000% on that money by just keeping on loaning and returning the money. So it's just an amazing thing. It's an interesting graphic. They get your savings anyway. The other reason that they don't offer a tax break for savings is more obvious. If you can read the numbers and see which way the cash is flowing, you'll notice that they'll get your savings anyway. The money you could be saving in your asset column is flowing instead of out of your liability column in the form of interest payments on your mortgage. Let me read that one more time. The money you could be saving in your asset column is flowing instead out of your liability column in the form of interest payments on your mortgage. This ends up in the bank's asset column. The cash flow pattern looks something like this. So your financial statement, your income statement, and your balance sheet. So this is the financial intelligence. This is your balance sheet and your income statement. Every business has one. And by the way, your life is a business, so you have one even as a personal statement. Then you have your different businesses that you could have. So your balance sheet starts at your mortgage on your side. Your mortgage is in the liability section of my personal or your personal financial statement, and then it flows through the expense column, which is your mortgage interest, and then out. So on your bank's financial statement, it starts on the balance sheet on the bottom in the asset column. So your mortgage is in their asset column, meaning that they're receiving money. You're indebted to them. And it goes into their income statement. That's why they don't need the government to give you a tax incentive to save. They'll get your savings anyway in the form of interest on payments on debt. Politicians aren't about to mess with the system because the banks, insurance companies, building industry, brokerage houses, and others contribute a lot of money to their campaigns, and the politicians know the name of the game. The name of the game. In 1974, Rich Dad was upset because the game was played against me, and I didn't know it. I had bought this investment property and had taken a losing position, yet I'd been led to believe it was a winning position. I'm glad you entered the game, said Rich Dad, But because no one has ever told you what the game is, you've just been suckered over to the losing team. Rich Dad had explained the basics of the game. The name of the game is of capitalism is who is indebted to who. Once I knew the game, I could be a better player instead of someone who just had the game run all over them. The more people you are indebted to, the poorer you are. Hmm. The more people you are indebted to, the poorer you are, said Rich Dad. And the more people you have indebted to you, the wealthier you are. That's the game. Capitalism, the biggest game in the world. As I said, I struggled to keep my mind open. So I stayed silent and let him explain. We're all in debt to someone else. The problems occur when the debt goes out of balance. Unfortunately, the poor people of this world have been run over so hard by the game aren't that they often can't get any deeper into debt. The same is true for poorer countries. The world simply takes from the poor, weak, and the financially uninformed. If you have too much debt, the world takes everything and you have, including your time, your work, your home, your life, your confidence, even your dignity, if you let them. I don't make the rules, but I do know the game, and I played it well. I'll explain the game to you if you want to learn to play. Then, after you've mastered the game, you can decide what you want to do with what you know. Money is debt. Rich Dad went on to explain that even our currency isn't an instrument of equity, but an instrument of debt. Every dollar used to be backed by gold or silver, but now is an IOU guaranteed to be paid by the taxpayers of the issuing country. As long as the rest of the world has confidence in the American taxpayer to work and pay for this IOU called money, the world has confidence in the dollar. If that key element of money, confidence, suddenly disappears, the economy comes down like a house of cards. Take example, take the example of the German Weimar government marks that became utterly worthless just before World War II. As one story goes, an elderly woman was pushing a wheelbarrow full of marks to buy a loaf of bread. When she turned her back, someone stole the wheelbarrow and left a pile of worthless money all over the street. The wheelbarrow was more valuable than the currency. Hmm. That's why most money today is known as fiat money, money that cannot be converted into something tangible like gold or silver. The money is only good as long as the people have confidence in the government backing it. Today, much of the global economy is based on debt and confidence. As long as we all keep holding hands and no one breaks ranks, everything will be fine. By the way, the word fine is an acronym for feeling insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Who is indebted to whom? Going back to 1974, when I was learning how to buy that $56,000 condo, my rich dad taught me an important lesson on how to structure deals. Who is indebted to whom is the name of the game, Rich Dad said. And somebody is just stuck you with the debt. It's like going to dinner with 10 friends. You go to the restroom, and when you come back, the bill's there, but your friends are gone. It's like holding the bag. If you're going to play the game, then you had better understand it. Know the rules, speak the same language, and know with whom you're playing. If you don't, instead of playing the game will be played on you. It's only a game. At first, I got angry at what Rich Dad was saying, but I listened and I did my best to understand. See, emotions are coming in. You feel like you've been played and you don't know how you got played and you don't understand what you're missing. It's definitely an emotion that can just come up. The unknown is definitely a scary place, and one way to react to it is anger for sure. Finally, he put it into a context that I could understand. You love playing football, don't you? He asked. I nodded my head. I love the game, I said. Well, money is my game, Rich Dad said. I love the game, money game. Hmm. But for many people, money isn't a game. That's correct, said Rich Dad. For most people, it's survival. For most people, money is a game that they're forced to play, and they hate it. Unfortunately, the more civilized we get, the more money comes a part of our lives. Rich Dad drew the cash flow quadrant. Just look at this as just look at this as a tennis court, football field, soccer field. If you're going to play the money game, which team do you want to be on? The E, S, B, or I? Or which side of the court do you want to be on? The right side or the left side? I quickly pointed to the right side, where all the money is and freedom and opportunity is. If you take on debt and risk, you should be paid. Good, said Rich Dad. That's why you can't go out there to play the game and believe some sales agent when he tells you that to lose $150 a month for 30 years is a good idea because the government will give you a tax break for losing money and he expects the price of real estate to go up. You simply can't play the game with that mindset. While those opinions might come true, that's just not the way the game is played on the right side of the cash flow quadrant. Somebody is telling you to go into debt, take all the risk, and pay for it. Wow. People on the left side think that it's a good idea, but not the people on the right side. I was shaking a little, looking at it my way, said Rich Dad. You're willing to pay $56,000 for this condo in the sky. You're signing for the debt and taking all the risk. That sounds like the stock market. The tenant pays less in rent than what it costs to live there. What? The tenant pays less in rent than what it costs to live there. So you're subsidizing that person's housing. Does that make sense to you? I shook my head. This is the way I play the game, Rashad said. From now on, if you take on debt and risk, then you should get paid for it. Got that? I nodded my head. Making money is common sense, Richard said Richard. It's not rocket science. But unfortunately, when it comes to money, common sense is uncommon. A banker tells you to take on debt so the government can give you a tax break. Hmm, that's one side of the story. That doesn't make fundamental economic sense. Then a real estate agent tells you you're sign the papers because he can find a tenant who will pay you less than you're paying, but in his opinion, the value of the condo will go up. Another one-sided opinion. If that makes sense to you, then you and I don't share the same common sense. Those are both sales pitches, by the way, not the full story. I just stood there. I heard everything he said, and I had to admit that I've gotten so excited by what I thought looked like a good deal that my logic went out the window and I didn't analyze the deal. Because the deal looked good, keyword, because the deal looked good, I had become emotional with greed and excitement. Where else do you hear about greed and excitement about money? The stock market, the racetrack, the gambling tables, etc., etc., etc. And I was no longer able to hear what the numbers and the words were telling me. It was then that Rich Dad gave me an important rule that he always used. Your profit is made when you buy, not when you sell. Hmm. Again, your profit is made when you buy the deal, not when you sell. Rich Dad had to be certain that whatever debt or risk he took on, it made sense from the day he bought it. It had to make sense if the economy got worse, and it had to make sense if the economy got better. He never bought on tax tricks or crystal ball forecasts in the future. A deal had to make sound economic sense in good times and in bad. It was begin in the beginning, it was I was beginning to understand the game of money as he saw it. Clearly, the game was to see others become indebted to you and to be careful to whom you became indebted to. Today, I still hear his words. If you take on risk and debt, make sure to get paid for it. Rich Dad had debt, but he was careful when he took it on. If you take on debt personally, make sure it's small. If you take on large debt, make sure it's somebody else is paying for it. Oh, wait, what? Rich Dad had debt, but he was careful when he took it on. If you take on debt personally, make sure it's small. If you take on large debt, make sure someone else is paying for it. Ooh, that's a trick. Make sure someone else is paying for your debt. He saw the game of money and debt as a game that is played on you, played on me, and played on everyone. It's played from business to business and it's played from country to country. To him, it was only a game. But for most people, money isn't a game, it's survival. And because no one explained the game to them, they still believe bankers who say their house is an asset. All right. Let's take a break here and see who's out there. Let's go open up the mics and who's out there today?
Hey, good morning, Jameson. Good reading. Probably uncomfortable for some people. Probably a lot of people do not look at money as a game and think that that's not taking money seriously. But the fact is, it is. It is a game, and the rules. That's the good thing about a game is that there are rules, and the name of any game is to know the rules. The people who know the rules the best do the best. So that's what that's what it's speaking to me, and it's telling me. In fact, there's another saying that if you're not invited to the table, you're on the table, and that has to do again with not knowing the rules. And it's a game. It's not optional, right? Unless you live out in the wilderness where no money is ever exchanged, uh, you by living with society, you're in the game. So that's what I see right there.
Yes, Eric, thank you. And if money is a game or and life is, you have your personal assets, which are basically your time, which is the most valuable asset you have. Then you have your what you exchange in the world for that, and then the agreements and the contracts, and then where your tribe, your where you live, your group, and your agreements with them, and you have all these multiple agreements and all these responsibilities and or what they call assets, which are your time, your skill, ability, everything like that. And then you have your liabilities, which are where you live, who you're indebted to, who you pay taxes to, who you pay, your dues to. Definitely, the rules are all around us. We swim in ever increasing levels of rules. And that's just the game. So we definitely want to make sure that we know the rules. We get our advice from people that have played the game and made all the mistakes and help mentor us. Thank you.
Yeah, and the best way to learn a game is always with a coach or a mentor, right? There's not a successful player that doesn't have a coach. In fact, the best players have multiple coaches, right? You use this sports example. They got the head coach, then there's the offense coach, the defense coach. You've got the kickoff coach, the running coach, the strength and conditioning coach, the nutrition coach. If you think about it, in order to be optimum, and that's why aligning yourselves with people, you don't have to be the expert in all those areas. In fact, you'll never be the expert in all those areas. But the wealthy and successful people, what they know is that by surrounding themselves with the most successful people, they get that advantage. So just a little add on there.
Oh, yes. And it even goes into talking about the differences, the emotional differences and the viewpoints of the cash flow quadrant, the ESBNI. And because the E's are like, well, I'm going to do it because this is what I've been told. The S is like, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to be the specialist myself, and I'm going to try to do it all. And when you get on the right side of the cash flow quadrant, the B's, they have a team. They want to be, they don't want to be the smartest person in the room, but they also definitely want to take advice and be able to take great, smart action. And I think, and in the eyes, of course, they can do that. One of the things I saw also is I heard about Tiger Woods had something like 18 coaches, exactly what you're talking about. All those coaches, and it's amazing. And because they invest in the value of performance, and when they can exchange that performance that they can do, the return on investment is amazing. Thank you. Uh,
Thank you.
I see Dr. Parker's in the house.
Great morning, Jameson. And good morning, Eric, and everybody here. Listen, at the end of the day, as I hear you read this and go through these scenarios, it's a game. And we've talked about it. There's a money game being played. You hear Eric Wilson talk about it all the time. And if we don't learn this game, we're going to lose this game because we don't know the rules. But like you say, the wealthy people can afford to surround themselves with these coaches. The average person can't. So how do we ever learn the game? We don't. So we continue to lose. And we feed into this thing and we make it profitable for those who have mastered the game. So we better figure this thing out. Or we'll continue to carry the game. It's our money that's making it all happen simply because we don't understand it. Pretty amazing stuff, man. You're muted, James. There we go.
Yes, and it's definitely like what Eric was saying. Like if you don't know, if you're like they talked about in later on, like the poker game or a game, if you don't know who the patsy is, or if you don't know who's being played the most, it's you because you're not seeing all the rules and all the angles and all the opportunities, and definitely surrounding yourself with a team, and generally having a well-rounded financial team can get expensive. You have your retainer fees, you have all your fees that go along with that, and we can definitely, as you say, in some of our other opportunities and meetings and stuff like that, is that you can get priced out. And by getting priced out of it, you just have to go with whatever you're taught at home. And what you're taught at home is just opinions, as later on you'll talk about. It's just an opinion. And like, different things, opinions aren't facts. The facts aren't opinions, and therefore you start running your life on opinions and get run over because you'll just be doing what everybody else, you're following the herd, and the herd isn't is definitely being taken advantage of. Thank you. I see Monifa's hand up. And whenever she's able to take a break from driving and working and going out there and doing her grinding away, let come on in. Anyone else out there too?
Ron's out here. While she's getting unmuted, I'll talk a minute. This is a chapter that I realize that about every 1 or 2 years, maybe 2 or 3 years, I really need to come back and reread, reset my mind so that I'm really clear on what is working against me and for me, because I forgot about all this. And that's not good. It's much better to have a working understanding of what this chapter is saying and not just flowing with what is in general perceived as common for you to do.
Definitely. It's so easy to fall to go along with the flow and go with what people are selling you on. As Robert Kiyosaki stated one time, it's basically if everyone's telling you, oh, it's good, it's low down payments, you'll make it on the back end, you'll make it. Don't worry about how expensive it is. Don't worry about losing money because you're going to make it up in taxes. You're going to make it up tax breaks. You're going to make it up in appreciation, market appreciation. So you can stand $150. It's nothing to you. You can lose money and still win. They're selling you that big one side of the story. I'll go for a little while longer to see
Okay, guys.
where you are.
I
Hi,
was able to
Cassandra.
pull over. Good morning.
That's okay.
I
We
was like,
know
oh no,
we'll
they're
give you
calling me. I
we'll
can't pick
give you
up
that
right now.
long runway there. Okay.
Thank you so much for having grace and patience for me. I try to be here all the time. Well, I am here all the time, actually, every Saturday. So I have to make it my business to open my mouth and to let you guys know that, it's not falling on deaf ears. Hey, if I don't know what to say, I'm going to come on and say something positive. You know what I mean? Because we are listening attentively. And I may be a little distracted, but yet and still I am here. And this was so good. Good morning to all the leaders on the line. Some people are playing checkers. This is what I got, what I was hearing. Since it's a game, some people are playing checkers and others are out there playing chess. Okay. Most folks are just like working for money instead of learning how to make that money work for them. You will always be in survival mode if you don't understand the rules. And you'll never win. You'll just be going around in circles. And that's the crazy part. Like, who understands leverage? Using other people's money. And then the part when you read, oh, make somebody else pay for your debt. Ain't that crazy how the whole business funding precious metal fall right under that? This is so good. This is so good. And it's all a mindset. So you have to learn. You have to learn it. If you don't learn it, you're going to be lost in the sauce. Thank you so much, Jameson. You did an outstanding read today. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you so much. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you, Dr. Parker. Thank you, all the leaders. Thank you, Fernando, everybody for staying. Eric, all the great minds on here that I can sit and I can glean and I can learn from. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Assets over liabilities. What? This was good. Thank you.
Yes, Monifa. It's one of those things that it's just wow, can I have someone pay for my debt? Well, later on, one of those things he also says is Kim, his wife, said to Robert, um, if you want that fancy sports car, you need to buy an asset that actually pays for the sports car. So you not only get the asset, the apartment complex, you'll also get the sports car. So that's what he did. He literally bought an apartment complex, got it to cash flow, got the renters to pay for that debt of the apartment complex, had a positive cash flow, which actually paid for the sports car note. And then in 5 years or so, he was able to have both the apartment complex and the actual sports car. What an interesting thing. And the renters paid for his debt. Cassandra, I see you out there. Are you able to unmute, Cassandra?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great reading, guys. I'm telling you, that really opened me up even more when you talked about the bank and about the little dollar that the person saved and how it accumulated to about $10. But the bank took your money, but the bank has it. And I mean, I'm learning so much, and how the taxes are like they look forward to where the government's taking your money, and the more you make, the more they take. But that little bit can accumulate, even if you save that little bit. um and then you talked about, I'm listening. Believe me. And I'm enjoying this because we wasn't taught this. We wasn't talk about we don't talk about money, in schools like this. And so now you have ways of protecting and saving and growing your money. And this all falls into play. What we have here is it's going to open up so many people's minds, and just, keep going, keep doing what you need to do. And people out there need to hear this. They need to see, okay, um, because it wasn't taught to us. It's not taught to all of us. So learning and developing and growing, being on that quadrant, that E's S B, and what's the other one?
I.
I. And so we just got to keep going and learning these things. And I thank you, Jameson. You're doing an excellent job. Dr. Parker, it was good hearing your voice. Fernando as well. Y'all are great leaders. Y'all keep doing what you're doing. And I am grateful that I'm in this quadrant.
Yes, it's eye-opening, and Cassandra, because we're not taught this at the dinner table. We're not taught this at school. We're taught to be consumers. Even if we go to college, we go to most of the financial advice is taught from a perspective of being a consumer to be able to have access to take on a mortgage, take on a car note. Oh, by the way, I was just thinking about really quickly about when you go to buy a car. There is, so you have the car, the reputation of the manufacturer, reputation of the car, the service history of the car, the Carfax, like what recalls, any kind of service problems. There's so many things that make up the deal of a car that aren't just what you see with your eyes. And that's exactly what this chapter was about. You can't see money with your eyes. There's the roads, the taxes, the toll fees, the maintenance fees, the tire fees, the taxes. There's so many things that go into one automobile that you don't see all of that when you go to buy the car. You just take a kind of a you get taken on a tour. You take taken this way and that way, and then you have the opinions of all your friends and family, like what you should buy and what will work for you. Are you going to use it for business? Are you personal use? Are you hauling kids around? Are you taking it on a trip? Are you, tooling around only on Sundays? There's so many decisions that be made, so you can't see the deal or the money of the deal with just your eyes. Fernando, I see you out there.
Wow, I wanted to hear everyone's perspective, and it's been an amazing morning. Jameson, thank you so much. When you read, you put that emotional touch of, you're not overexcited, but you learn how to educate us and flow with the reading, and you really hit me with two things, and I'm gonna compress it with this: the way I feel banks see us, and the way we should see life in general when it comes to finances. Banks rely on other people's money, which is ours, right?
Hmm.
And also, banks rely on other people's efforts, which is everyone that works. So, if we can understand those two perspectives about money, I also wrote down here what you read this morning, which is emotions overpower logic. So when you get to understand the difference between assets and liabilities, your thoughts can either be an asset or a liability. If we don't understand other people's money, idea, and other people's efforts. So I'm taking that with me today. Man, we definitely we gotta use the bank's money to make money. Bottom line, we can't get too emotionally attached to material things
Yeah.
because they're really gonna put our money at risk and convert. Maybe we can see something and get emotionally attached to it because it's a beautiful car, a beautiful purse, or whatever the case might be. But that depreciates in value. We gotta see what appreciates in value, and it's got to do with other people's money and other people's efforts. If you have that in your favor, you can definitely conquer the entire world. Appreciate it. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Renando. And it's critically important to get good financial advice to understand, because especially that's what boards are for companies. They hire people that are more financially sophisticated than their level. Like if they had a financial sophistication of, let's say, a small business level, they hire a board of someone that's the next tier up that has a bigger perspective, a bigger opportunity to see from being having it done. They get coaches. They basically get coaches. And with that the coaches, they'll be able to see a bigger perspective and be able to have opportunities to help make better decisions and go further on into what they need to do. I have a few more pages left. I think I might be able to knock it out and then we can get to chapter 7. So let me go ahead and knock out these couple of pages and we'll be on to chapter 7 and then we'll go from there and we'll probably end there. The importance of facts versus opinions. Rich Dad continued his lesson. If you want to be successful on the right side, you've got to know the difference between the facts and opinions. You can't blindly accept financial advice the way people on the left side do. You must know the numbers. The numbers will tell you facts. Your financial survival depends upon facts, not some friend or advisor's worldly opinions. I don't understand. What's the big deal about something being a fact or an opinion? Is one better than the other? No, replied Rich Dad. Just know when something is a fact and when something is an opinion. Still puzzled, I stood there with the confused look on my face. What is your family's home worth? Rich Dad asked. Oh, I know. I quickly replied. My parents are thinking about selling, so they had a real estate agent come and do an appraisal. They said to the house was worth $36,000. This is back in like 1974 in Hawaii. So money used to be a lot more valuable than that. That means my dad's net worth increased by $16,000 because he paid only $20,000 for it 5 years ago. So this is the appraisal, and so is the appraisal and your dad's net worth a fact or an opinion? Richard asked. I thought about it for a while and I understood what he's getting at. Both are opinions, aren't they? Rich Dad nodded his head. Very good. Most people struggle financially because they spend their lives using opinions rather than facts when making financial decisions. Options such as your house is an asset. The price of real estate always goes up. Blue chip stocks are your best investment. It takes money to make money. Stocks have always outperformed real estate. You should diversify your portfolio. You have to be dishonest to be rich. Investing is risky. Play it safe. I sat there deep in thought, realizing that most of what I heard about money at home was really people's opinions, not facts. Gold is an asset. Is gold an asset? Asked Rich Dad, snapping me out of my dream. Yes, of course, I replied. It's the only real money that has withstood the test of time. See, there you go again, Rich Dad smiled, Rich Dad. All you're doing is repeating someone else's opinion about what an asset is rather than checking out the facts. Gold is only an asset, by my definition, if you buy it for less than you sell it for, Rich Dad said slowly. In other words, if you bought it for $10 and sold it for $200, if you bought it for $100 and sold it for $200, then it was an asset. But if you bought 1 ounce for $200 and you sold for $100, then gold in this transaction was a liability. It is the actual financial numbers for the transaction that ultimately tell you the facts. In reality, the only thing that is an asset or a liability is you. What? In reality, the only thing that is an asset or a liability is you, because only you can make decisions that make gold an asset or a liability. Man, I need to highlight that one. That is why financial education is so important. I've seen so many people take a perfectly good business or piece of real estate and turn it into a financial nightmare. Many people do the same in their personal lives. They take hard-earned money and create a lifetime of financial liabilities. I was even more confused, a little hurt inside. I wanted to argue. Rich Dad was toying with my brain. Many a man has been suckered because they didn't know the facts. Every day I heard horror stories of someone who lost their money because they thought an opinion was a fact. It's okay to use an opinion when making a financial decision, but you must know the difference. Millions of people have made life decisions based upon opinions handed down from generation to generation, and they wonder why they struggle financially. What kind of options? Excuse me, what kind of opinions? I ask. Rich Dad chuckled to himself before he answered. Well, let me give you a few common ones I've heard. You've all heard. You should marry him. He'd make a good husband. Find a secure job and stay there for your life. Doctors make a lot of money. They have a big house. They must be rich. He has big muscles. He must be healthy. This is a nice car. It's only been driven by a little old lady. There's a lot of money for everyone to be rich. There's not a lot of money for to be everybody rich. Earth is flat. Humans will never fly. He is smarter than his sister. Bonds are safer than stocks. People who make mistakes are stupid. He will never sell for such a low price. She will never go out with me. Investing is risky. I'll never be rich. I didn't go to college, so I'll never get ahead. You should diversify your investments. You should not diversify your investments. Rich Dad went on until finally he could tell us I was tired of hearing his examples of opinions. Okay, I've heard enough. What's your point? Thought you'd never stop me, Rich Dad said, smiling. The point is that most people's lives are determined by their opinions rather than their facts. For a person's life to change, they need to first change their opinions and then start looking at the facts. If you can read financial statements, you'll be able to see the facts of an individual's or a company's financial success rather than going by opinions, yours or somebody else's. As I said, one is not better than the other, but to be successful in life, especially financially, you must know the difference. If you can't verify something is a fact, then it's an opinion. Financial blindness occurs when a person can't read financial statements, leaving them to rely upon someone else's opinion. Financial insanity is caused when opinions are used as facts. If you want to be on the right side of the cash flow quadrant, you must know the difference between facts and opinions. Few lessons are more important than this one. I sat there listening quietly, doing my best to understand what he was saying. I obviously, it was obviously a simple concept, yet it was larger than my brain could accept at that moment. Do you know what due diligence is? Asked Rich Dad. I shook my head. Due diligence simply means that your homework and finding out which statements and opinions and which ones are facts. When it comes to money, most people are either lazy or searching for shortcuts, so they don't do enough due diligence. And there are still others who are so afraid of making mistakes that they all do is due diligence and do nothing. Too much due diligence is also called analysis paralysis. The point is that you must know how to sit through the facts and opinions and make your decisions. As I said, most people are in financial trouble today simply because they are taking too many shortcuts and are making their lives financial decisions based upon opinions, often the opinions of E's and S's, and not the facts. If you want to be a B or an I, you must keenly be aware of this difference. Yeah, we can go a little bit farther. I didn't fully appreciate what Rich Dad's lesson I did not fully appreciate Rich Dad's lesson that day, yet few lessons have served me better than that one. Years later, in 1990, Rich Dad watched a stock market climb out of sight. It's common His only comment was, that's what happens when highly paid employees or self-employed people with big paychecks paying excessive amounts of taxes, greatly in debt, and with only paper assets in their portfolio begin handing out of that investment advice. Millions are about to get hurt following the opinions of people who think they know the facts. Warren Buffett, America's greatest investor, once said, if you're in a poker game and after 20 minutes you don't know who the patsy is, you're the patsy. Why people struggle financially. Would you believe that most people will be in debt from the day they leave school until the day they die? It's true. This is an average middle class American's financial picture. We're starting in the income statement and balance sheet. So we start with a job, which is our income on the income statement. It flows through the liabilities, which are mortgage, car loans, credit card debt, school loans, which are liabilities to a person, and then comes back out the expense column, which gets paid out in taxes, mortgage payments, car payments, credit card payments, and school loan payments. So our money comes through our job, goes out from our contractual agreements or liabilities, and out through expenses. Someone else's balance sheet. If you know and understand the game, then you may realize that those liabilities must show up on someone else's balance sheet as assets like this. So this is like the bank, the mortgage company, and everybody else. So income statement, balance sheet. Assets that are considered on the bank's balance sheet are mortgages, car loans, credit card debt, and school loans, all the places where you get your loans from. And then they go into their incomes is income and interest paid to the bank. Anytime you heard these Anytime you hear these words, low down payment, easy monthly payment, or don't worry, the government will give you a tax break for those losses when you know someone is luring you into the game. If you want to be financially free, you've got to be smarter than that. Most people don't have anyone who's indebted to them. They have no real assets, things to put in the money in their pocket, and they're often indebted to everyone else. That's why they cling to a job security and struggle financially. If it weren't for their job, they'd be broke in a flash. In fact, the average American is less than 3 paychecks away from being bankruptcy. They seek a better life. They get run over by the game because the deck is stacked against them, just like in a gambling hall. They still think their house, car, golf clubs, clothes, vacation homes, and other doodads are assets. They believe what someone else tells them because they can't read financial numbers to see the truth for themselves. Most people go to school and learn to be players in the game, but no one explains the rules to them. No one tells them that the name of the game is who is indebted to whom, and because no one tells them that they are the ones who become indebted to everyone else. Money is an idea. This is the conclusion of this chapter. I hope you now understand the basics of cash flow, the cash flow quadrant, and know that money really is an idea that is more clearly seen with your mind than your eyes. Learning the game of money and how it is played is an important part of your journey to financial freedom. Even more important is who you need to become to move to the right side of the cash flow quadrant. Part 2 of this book focuses on bringing out the best in you and on analyzing the formula be, do, have. And my saying is be the vision, like be the vision, do the mission, and have your dreams. Anyway, that's it for me today. Fernando, are you out there?
That last synopsis is very good. Thank you, Jameson.
Hey, Jameson, repeat that again, please, man. I missed the last one. Be equals
Yes,
division,
So,
do
that
the
was
mission, and
powerful.
have.
so I've been learning about this through different personal development and stuff. So the formula basically of manifestation is you have to become it. Literally, you have to own it. Like be the owner of the sports team, not the player. The owner is the one that has the vision, executes on the vision, and knows where they're going, and is the champion, the leader, the visionary, like Martin Luther King, Gandhi, you name it, the big Martin, Mother Teresa, all the visionaries that literally led millions of people because they held a vision and they shared their vision. So own and become and have it be inside of you. Be the vision, then you do the mission, whatever that mission is of the vision, the do. And then if you be the vision, hold it, you do the work, you'll have your dreams. So it goes be the vision, do the mission, and have your dreams.
Wow, that is impressive. Thank you so much, Jameson, Jules, for definitely gold nuggets, whatever you guys want to call it. I mean, I took a lot of notes. I enjoyed the reading. You know, I use my imagination as much as everyone here uses their imagination. And we do have definitely is the key to achieve greatness in our lives. So it's an honor to be here every Saturday morning with each and every one of you. I'm gonna call each everyone out here just to say hello here from California. We've been up here since 5:30 our time. So Ron, great to have you here. Lovey, Dr.
Thank
G.W.
you.
Parker, Eric Wilner, radio host. I love that. I love that. Now we can easily identify where to find you. Monifa, Elisa, uh, Eva, Josh, Cassandra, Maura, Rich. I like that. And my wife, Martha. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little break. I'm going to set up myself after our tremendous Dr. G.W. Parker and I are going to be training today, but we're going to have a special presenter. And, you know, when he presents, I listen and I also take a lot of notes because what comes out of his mouth is jewels, Mr. Eric Wilner. So there's no one better to give us that presentation, but let's make him proud. Let's start doing the invitations. We got plenty of time. Jameson did a phenomenal job for all of us to be energized.